Now we can start. Thank you very much. Call to order the May meeting of Parkside Council. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. After the pledge, we're going to take a moment of silence to remember former Chief Flynn. You may sit down when you're ready after that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated when you're ready. Okay, I will do the roll call. We are temporarily without a secretary. So, Mr. Wills is here, Mr. Rodo is here, Mr. Powers, here. Ms. Purcival, here, Mr. Bull, here, Mr. Sweigart, here, Mr. Costigan, here, Mr. Sidlow, here, and I am here, Ms. Guy. All right, let's see. We typically start with correspondence. I don't believe we have any that we know of right now. Do we have tax collector's report? Does anybody have that? Nope. Okay. And the mayor is not here, so thank you very much.
For the month of April, we had 5 crimes in the borough, 1 harassment, 1 criminal contempt, which is a violation of a court order, 2 thefts, and 1 criminal mischief. We had 196 incidents during the month, which is up significantly from the previous months. We had 11 medical emergencies, 3 domestics, 8 suspicious person incidents, 6 alarms, and 28 building checks. With our new full-time staff, we're doing a lot more. That's why the number of incidents is up. And the building checks are typically performed during the late shift, the overnight shift. We'll go out and pull door handles and whatnot and check the security of the businesses along 81 Avenue. There were 3 accidents in the borough. We conducted 48 traffic details during the month, made 41 motor vehicle stops, issued 16 citations, and had 25 warnings.
All right, thank you very much. I was speaking to Officer Charlie there, and he's out there writing tickets. So if it's a stop sign, stop. If it's a speed limit, obey it. Because he's out there. Appreciate it. Next, we have call to citizens on agenda-related items only.
We need you a minute ago. I seen on the agenda that you're trying to replace the solicitor again. May I ask why?
Well, we are interested, I believe, in appointing a new solicitor to represent us with the firehouse, because he currently also represents the firehouse, and since that's a conflict of interest, I believe that we should consider hiring another solicitor in order to represent us in that area, because I don't think it's appropriate for you to represent both parties in this situation. Do you agree?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I no longer represent the fire company. Approximately 6 months ago, I had submitted a letter of resignation.
Right.
But I think out of any prevention or even any possibility of any type of conflict, I think it may be appropriate, at least for dealings with the fire company, that we would consider appointing independent counsel. Again, specifically with regard to fire company issues. Again, for the record, I no longer serve as solicitor for the fire company and have not done so for the past 6 months,
Right.
but I have served for many years as solicitor for this fire company and many other volunteer fire companies throughout Delaware County. So if there would be a potential conflict, then I think it would be appropriate to appoint what is sometimes referred to as conflict counsel.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
No one else? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the President's report. We have received the resignation of former Secretary Ms. Stamus. I would like to make a motion to accept that resignation.
Second with regret.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I would also like to make a motion to hire a secretary. We agreed on a temporary basis while we continue our search. And we have interviewed Ms. Cordelia and, what's your last name again?
Scales.
Scales, thank you. Ms. Cordelia Scales, and she has agreed to help us out covering the office on a temporary basis until we make a decision on a permanent secretary. So I would like to make that motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Would this be considered like seasonal labor, more or less? Like have a defined timeline, limited person benefits?
Oh, well, you know, the perks and benefits are not all that
Free parking.
grand. Yes, free parking, we do provide that.
And how long is this temporary position going to be for?
Well, we had originally said for 8 weeks. So we'll see how things go.
Well, in case it's 9 weeks, why don't we say 2 meetings?
2 meetings.
So to the conclusion of
So until the July meeting?
the end of the July meeting, so that the role can be performed during the meeting.
Unless a permanent borough secretary is hired prior to that?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Roll with the punches, right?
Is that an amended motion?
So the motion is for up through the July meeting or until we find a permanent secretary if we find someone we like better. Okay.
The July meeting is July 19th, so we would vote to hire the secretary on a temporary basis until July 19th. At the July meeting, we can always feel free to extend that if need be.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Welcome. Would you like to join us at the table?
Can we do discussion about the secretary now, or,
Discussion is what?
well, it's your president's report, but I would like to discuss the position of, I don't want to interfere with your president's report, but I would like to discuss thoughts on the position.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I wrote this in an email, I think that, so Borough Secretary, as I understand it, is a legal position by the laws of the Commonwealth. Is that correct, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, it is defined in the Borough Code, that is correct.
Okay, so the role of Borough Secretary can be performed by someone who has that title and perhaps an additional title with the borough. Or it can be, so my point is that I think that we should take this opportunity while we're considering a hire to maybe consider broadening out the scope of a position that we hire for and have more of a borough manager. The borough manager would do the borough secretarial roles as defined by the legal position in the state laws, as well as, take on a lot of the responsibilities that we as council members take on that I think we sometimes struggle to get done because we're volunteering. So some examples would be managing the code officials, managing the maintenance of this building, managing Mr. Cornog and his taking care of the borough. Nobody on a regular basis checks our insurances and make sure that all the paperwork is taken care of. I just feel like if we add, 3 to 5 hours, let me say that differently. Maybe we add 6 or 8 hours a week and gave more responsibility to somebody, we could have a better managed borough instead of all of us struggling to be council members and run a part of the government. I really think that someone professional to lead us would be a very advantageous hire for us to consider.
Mr. Sidlow, as I said in an email, there's complications to your idea. Number one, we're elected officials here and we're responsible for those duties. Number two is, according to Borough State Code, when you classify somebody as a borough manager, there's not only benefits involved, and of course it would raise our budget for the cost of hourly wages, but you are then required to start a non-uniform pension plan. And that again would cost more money for the budget and thus for the taxpayers. But we are here to do a job for our constituents, and every one of us has a job to do. And I don't know that it's so overwhelming with under 3,000 people that we can't handle that job. And it's an expense for the taxpayers, not only health insurance and a non-uniform pension plan, but the hourly wages.
Well, it's certainly, there certainly are costs involved. I think that we would have better services and better management of what we do as a municipality. And then, Michael, you had a proposal you were going to make in this meeting. Well, I'll wait till you talk about that. So, anyway, that is my feeling as to how we should proceed, is to really consider hiring a borough manager. And I know there are costs, but I think it's costs that would improve the governance of this community.
I would have to say we'd have to wait on that. We just went to 4 full-time officers to see how that plays out with the budget and everything, until to take on the added expense of a borough manager position versus just the borough secretary as it's laid out right now would be something we could plan, maybe be able to see if we can budget for next year.
Down the road.
But not at this time.
And when we started many, many years ago, our secretary was 20 hours a week, and that increased as the volume of permits and the various responsibilities increased to the point of where we are now. But that was a gradual over 30 years.
I think I do a pretty good job managing the public works, and it's free, and now we're going to bring a borough manager, and I don't see the point for as small as borough you are. And you also have a fee schedule here that we're going to talk about later on. Do you know the fee schedules for a borough manager in Brookhaven and Upland? They're over $100,000, borough managers.
Yeah, but that's not equivalent to.
Well, how are you going to get somebody in here if you're not going to pay them? I mean, you're going to work off a fee schedule here, only when it's convenient for us. It doesn't work that way. We're too small for a borough manager. Plus, the other borough manager work that I do is through the emergency management team. And, I mean, that's the hazard mitigation plan that I talked about last month, and you're already getting that out of me for nothing. I mean, I'm not going to say for nothing, because I do get compensated for emergency management, but I'm handling those duties now for next to no cost, especially public works. That's my job. That's what I was appointed to by the president, and I think I do a pretty good job of it. So that's my 2 cents.
I mean, if I may, Madam President, the last 2 years have not been indicative of how it would normally run smoothly. So we have to wait until we get some things settled slightly. And I think it's certainly not overwhelming. We've all noticed a little bit of a tax on our time, of course. We've gone through a lot of changes. I think adding another full-time person into that mix almost allows it to continue as, instead of creating them, just like Rob says, mitigating some of these extra time constraints. Because the work itself isn't that bad. We answer our emails, read our reports, and make informed decisions. It really should go relatively smoothly.
My only comment is that other boroughs this size don't have borough managers because they are expensive, and I don't know that we rate a borough manager. It's unfortunate because it would be nice to have somebody overseeing all this, but we can consider other ways that we can utilize that position, the secretary position.
One possibility would be to maintain the borough secretarial position, but extend perhaps or expand the weekly hours. And the expansion of the weekly hours may also expand perhaps the duties and responsibilities of the borough secretary. So just another possibility for council to consider.
I think over time, as we work, we'll see how many hours and if the hours are sufficient. But in the meantime, have we discussed this enough?
Thank you for taking your report time.
Appreciate it. Can you pass that down to Cordelia? I made that for any votes that she needs to record. All right, so the next item on here is a motion to appoint an open records officer, and I believe Michael has agreed to do it. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, my funeral.
You've had time to think. Okay. So,
I'll second that motion before he changes his mind.
thank you very much. And let's vote quick.
Yes?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Shh. Okay.
Welcome aboard, sir.
All right. And the last item I have on my, also for my president's report, I do need to mention we had an executive session 2 weeks ago to discuss personnel matters. We had another executive session 1 week ago, and we had one that didn't happen right before this meeting. So that's for the record. And so regarding Chief John Flynn, I had the opportunity to know him because he lived next door to me when we moved to Parkside here, and he was a fabulous neighbor and a nice guy and a good grandfather and father. He was chief, I believe, before Egan. Was there someone in between? I don't know. But he unfortunately has passed away. He and his wife moved to a retirement community, and I was very happy for them, but sadly, he has passed away, and so I would like to make a motion to make a donation in his honor. He's asked that we contribute to the Delaware County Community College Educational Foundation, and do we feel that $100 is an appropriate amount for us to donate on behalf of Parkside? All right. Thank you for seconding that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Rob is going to tell us a little bit more about Chief Flynn because he knew him on a professional basis.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief John Flynn was laid to rest with full honors. Delaware County Sheriff's Department provided honor guard along with the Parkside Fire Company. Parkside Fire Company, along with the Police Department and the Code Department, provided a full honor escort from the funeral home and cemetery. Chester Fire Department, along with Brookhaven Fire Department, provided an arch with the flag with full honors at the funeral home. Bethel Township and Aston Township provided a full arch with honors at the cemetery, where taps were played at the cemetery by the Delaware County Sheriff's Department. Chief Flynn served as a Parkside officer from 1973 to 1999. Chief Flynn also served as the Chief of Police from 1984 to 1999. Chief Flynn was known as the chief. That's why I keep calling him Chief Flynn. Chief Flynn was also the president and fire chief of the Parkside Fire Company and was a life and honorary member with 51 years of service to the community and fire company. Rest in peace, John Flynn. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes my president's report. Finance report.
I have a question, please. There's been some back and forth emails concerning state representative being here. I sent an email out, did not get a response. Who is taking the responsibility of opening and closing and directing people for when the state representative has their staff here?
I believe the secretary will be able to do that.
Okay.
At the time, we didn't have a secretary, so I couldn't really answer that.
Did you want to announce when he's going to be here?
When is he going to be here, Michael?
I don't have the date offhand.
I think it's a week from tomorrow.
The last week of May. They will be here for several days.
Why don't we explain what they're doing?
I'm sorry?
We should, the residents should understand why
They-
what we're talking about.
They will be here from noon to 2, Thursday, May 25th, Thursday, June 22nd, Thursday, July 27th. They're here to, do you want me to continue? I'm sorry.
Please, and what's the time? Did they say the time?
Yes, 12 to 2.
Thank you.
They're going to be here to assist any of our residents. I'm not sure where they're setting up. If you have any problems, you may have the opportunity to speak with their staff. And they will, I don't know how many staff members, I'm assuming 1 or 2 will be here. And they will help you with any issues or questions that you have in regarding to their position as being a state representative.
Yep. Carol Kazim, she represents us, Chester, and something else.
Marcus Hook,
Marcus Hook.
Trainer,
Trainer,
Eddystone.
Upland,
Upper Chichester.
Upper Chi.
Yep.
Upper Chichester.
So I'm assuming if it's one person, they'll be able to set up in the reception area. If it's more than that, they can just set up in here. I don't think that's a real issue. Okay, so are we ready to move on? All right, Mr. Bull, please, finance report.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, report to Parkside from Brinker Simpson. All bank accounts have been reconciled through April 30th, 2023. We're including the bank reconciliation and statements for all reconciled funds for council approval. General fund for the month of April, $14,276.81 was deposited into TD Bank's account, and expenses of $61,638.55 were paid. During this period, $1,072,560.24 of deposits were received into the Sharon Bank General Fund, and $59,511.51 of expenses were paid, including payroll of $47,380. Below bank balances per bank statement 4/30/23. General account, Sharon Bank, balance 1.146 million. General account, TD Bank, $279,358.12. General account, Pliget, $223. General account, WSFS, $15,117.02. Liquid fuels is the TD Bank for liquid fuels, $89,555.81. Liquid fuels, Pliget account is $8,787.70. The latter three are actually pretty nice interest-bearing accounts. We also received $410 in interest on the TD Bank account. With that being read, I would like to make a motion to accept the treasurer's report for April.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Madam President. Moving along, I would like to make a motion to pay the bills, to which I will exclude myself from the decision on the one check to my employer for $1,100 that was for some hazardous tree removal in January.
Second.
Questions?
Yes. I'd like to put something to rest. In February, a check was issued for check number 3813 in the amount of $5,210 for our prior solicitor. That check was voided. A check in April 12th was issued for $4,285.67. I'd like to note for the record that we were only credited $925 and we are in a loss of $980 that I'm assuming we will never retain.
I do agree. It was invoiced. I did sign the check just a little bit ago, but hopefully we'll put this to rest without any
I'm hoping.
further litigation or questions to anyone's validity.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, we're voting on accepting or paying the bills at this time, right? You're doing them.
I tried to not do it, and it always...
Well, you did it in reverse order, you confused me. All right, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, I oppose the bill for Rudolph Clark LLC and I on the rest.
Thank you. Would you like to move on, Mr. Bill?
President, ladies and gentlemen, the open space report, Woodlot has seen a lot of nice improvements. I still like to go down there and see Nate Sweigart's project. And what's the best way to say it? There's already been 2 acts of vandalism. If it ain't yours, don't tear it up. It's not right. But it is a beautiful park. We maintain it in a native setting. It's not supposed to be manicured. It wasn't deeded that way. It's supposed to make you feel like you're in nature. We do our level best to maintain it to that specification. With that said, there are 6 trees that have been identified that have died over the winter that I think we should start to work up a program to have those taken care of. There's a few that could impact the neighbors by having a defined target. It is not an emergency, it's not truly a hazard, but it is something that we should do for our public park and our residents. So I will have a specification written up for the next meeting. I was only short by an hour and a half to have it ready. So I already know the diameter of rest height, I know the locations at the site, I know the reason for decline, and I'll be able to make that presentation at the June meeting.
I would like us to consider other services for these trees. If your company, the company you work for, is the most competitive, then I wouldn't argue with that, but I believe that it's responsible for us to get additional bids.
I agree 100%.
Thank you.
That's why I'm going to write the specifications.
Excellent.
And let it fall where it may, I guess.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, no tree falls.
So,
Okay.
and with that, I'll report general progress.
All right, recreation, no, actually, it's junior council report. Mr. Costigan.
Yeah, so our junior council members have been working on that project, so the project, I'll let them talk about it in more detail, but the project that Daniel was leading was building a garden dedicated to mental health awareness and suicide prevention at West Cole Memorial. So we all went over there and dug our shovels out and planted some flowers. So that was a really nice time, and I want to thank everybody that helped out with that. And we're going to be having our second project on Sunday, which is going to be a cleanup day. Starting at 12 o'clock, we're going to meet at the school, and we'll have some water ice available also. So I'll turn it over to Daniel and Brown if they have anything to say.
Hello. So I just want to follow up on the West Cole Memorial.
Put the microphone closer to you and speak up maybe speak toward the crowd a little bit so they can hear you, Daniel. You're very quiet.
So I just want to follow up on the memorial. So on Sunday, April 23rd, all the junior council members and a few volunteers, we met up and we de-rooted and dug up some of the invasive flowers that were taking up too much space, and we planted a bunch of perennials. So of the budget that was used, we spent 170. We put all of that to flowers, mulch, plants, paint, and as well as some pebbles. And to save as much money as we could, we got discounts on all the flowers we purchased, and we dug up some flowers from our friend's garden that she wasn't using. So
Works for me.
we also provided some of our own rocks that we had and painted them with the paint we purchased. We also painted all the pebbles. So that was as much as we could do to save some money on the budget. And about the woodlot garden, I want to try and get down there soon to start working up more of a plan, because we don't really know too much of what's going on there because it was supposed to be further in the summer. But I don't really know, but if we do, we might have to extend budget because there's a lot more dirt that needs to be dug up for the soil to be viable. We talked to Mr. Roto about this. So we would have to get materials such as soil, plants, rocks, and more mulch, stuff like that. And that's all I really have to say.
Good job. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, it's very
Looks nice.
Oh, sorry, one more thing, I forgot to say this. If anybody wants to look at the pictures of the before and after, they're posted up on my Me Mom's Facebook. She has all the pictures there.
Do you have anything to say, Brian? Okay.
Did a good job.
All right, that's all we have for junior council.
Okay, let's see what's next. Next, we have recreation report.
Yes. The mayor left her recreation report. She apologizes for not being here. She's suffering from a migraine. She would like to thank all the volunteers that came out to make our events so much fun. Our second event this year was our tie-dye event. It included vendors, water ice truck, face painting, card making, plant selection, and crafts for the children. I think the children really enjoyed themselves. There was a couple cards that were left behind, but we did find the owners, so they were very happy. Our next event will be Family Movie Night on June 24th. The Recreation Committee looks forward to seeing our residents come out and enjoy the evening. What's better than popcorn, blanket, and a movie under the stars? The next meeting for recreation is June 7th here at the Borough Hall at 6:30. We will be doing finishing touches on the movie night and the 4th of July parade, but mostly getting ready for Community Day, which is September 16th. We have a Facebook page just for updates on our events, no interactions. Parkside Recreation Committee Bulletin. If you have any questions or suggestions, please email us at parksiderec19015@gmail.com. Volunteers are always welcome. If allowed, okay, we won't go into if allowed. The mayor would also like to let everybody know that at Easter, we had a donation jar out there and received $54 in donations, and she thanks everybody who donated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have Police Public Safety, Mr. Costigan.
Thank you, Madam President. Police and Public Safety, I want to thank all of our officers for the great work that they continue to do. Our new full-time officers have come on board and jumped right in and have been doing a great job. So other than that, I don't have anything to report other than general progress.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sidlow. Ordinance report.
Okay, so, as we've talked about in previous meetings, well, I'm just gonna read what I have written here. Over the past 10 months or so, the Ordinance Review Committee has met approximately half a dozen times. We have had about 10 different citizens and 4 elected officials participate in 1 or more meetings. We have reviewed 3 ordinances, Chapter 129, Peddling and Soliciting, Chapter 126, Parks and Recreation, and Chapter 119, Occupancy. The suggested changes have been shared to council by Google document, and I have not received many replies or feedbacks on what I drafted. I understand it's a lot of writing and a lot to get through. I also invited folks to a subcommittee meeting on the first Tuesday of the month, and nobody came to the meeting. So I did not print out all the changes, but I can go over them kind of one by one. There's not a ton of changes, but I don't know how much time we want to spend on this or how we want to handle the discussion on that.
I have questions on each of the revisions. I sent them to you in the spring or the fall of last year, and I got an answer. But if you'd like to go by each individual ordinance and ask for questions, I have questions.
Okay. So let's start with Chapter 129, Peddling and Soliciting. So do you have questions? Should I explain what we've done differently? Basically, this came up a year ago when we had a solicitor, and that annoyed some residents. So, and the peddling and solicitor ordinance talks about 2 kinds of solicitors: people selling stuff door to door, and ice cream vendors. So, some of the changes we made were that instead of the Parkside Health Officer doing the ice cream inspections, the Delaware County Health Department, I'm sure, inspects those vehicles, and that when they apply for the permit, they would have to provide the Delaware County Health Department documentation.
They don't. All they do is inspect for food. That's it. Temperatures, freezers, wearing gloves when they serve soft-serve ice cream, where they get their mixes from, and that's it. They don't do any type of vehicle inspection.
Okay.
Vehicle as in the truck, right, but we're not, as opposed to the part where the food is prepared.
Right,
Okay.
that's all they do. So,
But they inspect the part where
So
the
like
food is
this year, I
prepared.
did inspect Mr. Softy again, but I did not do any type of food inspection. He presented me with the Delaware County Health Certificate. I then inspected the vehicle for proper lights, registration, insurance, driver's license, fire extinguisher on board, and safety lights for children, that they have the stop sign that comes out, things like that I did. So I did do an inspection. He does have a certificate to operate in the borough under fire and safety regulations.
So that was a fire and safety inspection?
I did fire and safety inspection, yes, I did.
Okay. All right. And then, what else did we talk about in this ordinance? So we did not change the fee of $500 or every 6 months, but we talked about having the fine be, if they start soliciting without getting a permit, then the permit fee would be $650. Or they could stop soliciting and pay a $150 fine, was how we defined that. And then, the ice cream vendor in the ordinance says that ice cream can't be vended from 4 to 6 p.m. So that seemed a little ridiculous because obviously that's happening, so we took that out. And it said that the permit could only be examined by a police officer or a borough official. This is for people going house to house. So we felt that any resident should be able to see their solicitation permit if they're asked. And at that point, if the vendor fails to show the permit, the resident can report to the office or the police. And then, those were the main changes. What questions did you have, Mrs. Percival?
I wanted to know, I added several. Is there a limit on the time frame in which somebody can solicit door to door? Like, can we put in, and how many months out of the year, when we issue a permit, can we be specific and say a door-to-door solicitor can only solicit from, let's say, noon to 5 or noon to 7? Is there a way to incorporate some kind of restriction on the door-to-door solicitor?
Well, that seems reasonable. That seems reasonable. Right now, I see hours of operation. No persons licensed under this chapter shall be permitted to commence business in said borough prior to 9 a.m. or continue after 8 p.m.
Right.
So, yeah, that seems like too long of hours. Okay.
And also,
So what would you like it to be?
I mean, I don't want to be bothered before noon. You know, but, I mean, who wants to be bothered at 8 p.m. at night? I mean, my Johnny's.
Well, unfortunately, we can't just
Yeah.
prohibit it, correct?
I don't think we can prohibit it,
We
no.
can't just prohibit it, so we
We
can
can regulate
limit
We
it.
can regulate the
But we
time frame.
cannot give a total prohibition. That is
Right.
correct.
So we do have to, put
Right.
something in there, and, I mean,
10 to
I
7?
was thinking like 10 to 7.
10 to
That
7?
was my thought.
Also, one of the things that we've run into is if the county health department is busy, when we have an emergency, and an emergency would constitute bringing in our health officer, such as an extensive rodent problem, or a sewer line that has broken and you have storage coming up, and the county said, I can't get to you today or tomorrow. Is there a way to incorporate the emergency as being our health officer would then come in on emergency basis?
Well, those two examples don't seem to apply to peddling and soliciting ordinance,
Well,
right? I mean, we
No, it's
either have
under-
ice cream trucks or people knocking on doors around the neighborhood.
right, no, it's under here, and I have to apologize if I've got the wrong one.
Have we had an instance where we've had an emergency and they have not come?
Rob would have to answer that one.
Sorry.
Have we had an instance where we have called the health department of the county for an emergency
Not
and they've denied us?
Not yet.
Okay.
It is my understanding
know-
that there is a limited staff available on weekends with the county health department. So if there is an emergency, if there are exigent circumstances on a weekend, then a delay may be inevitable.
Right,
So-
but again,
So right now, the county health department are only doing food inspections right now. They're not handling, I think everybody just saw the email that they're gonna start a sewer and floodplain issues, but they're not up and running to that capacity yet. So in other towns right now, they do have a liaison on council to the health department. And I would think under emergency management, as we talked in previous council meetings, that I would still handle that for the borough.
Okay.
So, and I am. So in my next report, I have something actually that's going on right now in the borough that I'm handling.
Then I withdraw that question.
Thank you.
okay. So in that case, if there's no other objections to that, we'll move forward with drafting an ordinance for review for advertising for the next month meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 129, peddling and soliciting. Okay, and then we've got Chapter 126, Parks and Recreation. So, this one talks about a permit fee being required if there's going to be a large group gathering. And the committee went back and forth with the number of people that would be part of a group, the size of a group, and what kind of cost should be incurred. We did this back in the fall, I want to say. Since that time, I have gotten I've gotten 2 county permits for picnics or activities, and the county only says 10 people, and they don't charge any money for a permit. So, I kind of feel like if you want to have a permit, then maybe 10 people, but I don't know that we need to charge any money for a permit, is my opinion on that matter.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, and then, so the rest of the ordinance talks about designation of types of recreational facilities and the rules that can be followed in those recreational facilities. So it designates the Parkside Elementary School as a field as a recreation center. But as I understand it, that field is not owned by this borough.
That's correct.
So it seems like the ordinance should be changed to say there are no recreation centers in Parkside at this time. Okay? And then it says permitted use of recreation centers and permit required and proof of insurance and stuff like that, but if we have no recreation centers, the rest of it is moot. So I don't know if it makes more sense to eliminate recreation centers entirely or just say there are no recreation centers and leave in place the rules of a recreation center. And then the same thing applies to playgrounds. Again, the playground is the school's property, it's not the borough's property. So again, we changed the there are no designated playgrounds in Parkside at this time, is how we redefine the definition of a playground.
I would think just take the sections out and, just note that we don't have any.
I don't even think you need to know. I think just removal of the sections entirely.
Okay?
Yeah, you have section 126, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And they all deal with the school property, which is not our problem.
Yeah,
Well, is that the existing?
that's the existing ordinance.
Right.
So,
That's existing numbers.
yeah, so it seems like we should just eliminate all of that. Okay?
Now, Mr. Wills, in terms of advertisement, would we have to advertise what is being eliminated or just
No, just the
the
header.
section?
The header.
Just the headers?
Just the heading.
Okay.
the
So
headers.
the
No, I'm just saying
advertising
because there's a huge expense difference between.
If you advertise just the headers, you can run all 3 or 2 or whatever we're going to adopt. You can just
Okay.
run them together for one advertisement.
And then we can put them on a line, the entire thing, and have them available in the office.
So then, the next section is a long section, 126-11, goes A through W with the rules of what you can do in a recreation center. And they actually seem pretty reasonable, with the exception of that if the park can only be used from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or to 9 p.m. There were like hours. I'm sorry. There were hours where the park could be used, 8 to 8. But it doesn't make sense for us to have a lighted park if you can't use the park at night. Like, why do we have the lights if you can't use the park at night?
I would say sunrise to sunset because the hours change. But I know they've done different things, like different walks in the park. Down at
That
the Wood
have
Lot
to
at
be
night.
nighttime.
That, you know, like the Halloween walk, you're not gonna do that in the afternoon, you're gonna do that at night. I would say include in the ordinance, dusk, or dawn to dusk, unless,
Unless the playground-
Authorized by
Unless
the
you have a
borough.
special
Yeah,
activities
thank you.
permit.
Well, no,
I was getting there.
Well, we wrote it as if the park is lit.
No, I think you,
Well, then why do we have lights in the park if you can't use it?
Well,
as
number one is
security and safety.
security and safety.
Anti-vandalism.
Yeah, which,
There are a lot of municipalities that have a prohibition against loitering in the park, obviously, from dawn to dusk, and there's a lot of illicit activities that sometimes occur during those evening hours, and that's the whole purpose of those type of ordinances. So what we have on the books is certainly not uncommon with what many municipalities have here in Delaware County and throughout the Commonwealth. As far as a prohibition on hours and activities occurring, again, in the park after dark.
My only concern with a rule that then says, unless council says so, is that could be very arbitrary, you know, like, how do you
No, just
decide?
said unless a permit is issued by the borough.
But who determines whether that is issued or not, you know, like, because we don't want,
I would say it falls under Parks and Recreation open space.
I mean, we've never had the Boy Scouts want to camp back there, but I wouldn't say that to be nefarious, but it's a park. We camp at Clayton Park, we camp at, you know, a number of other Delaware County parks. I'm not putting it out there like that, but it would not be anomalous.
I mean, I'm okay with dusk to dawn, but I think we should turn off the lights.
dawn to dusk.
Dawn to dusk.
lights are on a timer.
I think we should turn off the lights. Like, there's no reason
No.
for us to have lights on.
No,
No.
We don't
No.
have the lights
No,
on
we're
to
not
vandalize.
I wouldn't recommend that at all.
It's unfortunate.
All right, well, I'll revise this, but I don't agree.
Enforce it anyway.
And then it says people can go to jail if they violate sections of this chapter. So, I took that out, that you can't go to prison for not more than 30 days if you do something wrong in the park. So, and
Unless it's a crime, and then the police will handle
then
it.
then it's a legal matter, but the crime should not be that you're in the park and then you can go to jail for being in the park.
I appreciate that.
All right, so that was,
Are you changing the group amount to 10 instead of 25?
I
Yes.
thought we were, we weren't going to eliminate the fee altogether?
10 people and eliminate the fee.
Eliminate the fee.
And I think my other question, which almost everybody has mentioned, is chapter 126-2. Are you requiring any type of liability insurance when they obtain a permit to use any of the facilities? I see the amount is $100,000 for your liability insurance.
Yeah, I think that should come out.
Oh, 12.6, 126-6.
I'm sorry, 126.6, proof of insurance.
Yeah, I don't think we need insurance. Like, people are covered by their own insurance if they're in the park.
That was added based off of, and I
Insurance.
know it sounds draconian, but it was added off of,
Well, hang on, this is for use of recreation center. 126-6 is for use of recreation
So
center.
you're going to delete that
Which we
altogether?
said,
don't have one of those.
we don't have a recreation
Well,
center.
no, but the thing is, I think that it needs to go through more of a wordsmith fine mesh here, because if we're talking about a recreation center, we've already discussed that there are no
They're
recreation.
being eliminated.
So
That's
that-
that way.
I think that's,
Bringing it back full circle to the use of any of our facilities, are we going to have production of a liability insurance, whether
No,
it's 100?
because that's not typical in other boroughs.
It is typical of other boroughs.
Okay, find it out for me. Do the
We went
research,
through
come
this
back to me.
last summer, I'm not gonna backtrack, but our insurance agent covers 33 municipalities out of the 43, and that's how we got this conversation last summer, that they recommended anybody using our facilities to have liability insurance shown. And I know a resident produced her homeowners last summer, and it should have been a one-day rider for a special event.
In the meantime, if you find me other boroughs that require people to get insurance, please let me know, okay?
We'll
Again-
have to look through the minutes of
I'd be
last
happy to
time.
have you show me other boroughs that require the residents to get
Well,
insurance.
let me ask you a question on that then. AJ Gallagher is our insurance agent. Maybe you could call and talk to our broker,
Sure.
since they represent 33 out of the 43 municipalities, to see what they recommend, and you could do that personally instead of going through secondhand like I did last year.
I will.
Okay. I will say that when the county issues a permit for 10 people in the county parks, they do not require any kind of insurance.
And could you tell me, the wording here is conduct a rally. Rally? Could you tell me how many that constitutes with that word?
Is that in the section we're keeping forward? Even look at it?
Where do you see that?
126-2, second line down. Wishes to use a park for recreation, social purposes, or to conduct a rally or a gathering of individuals.
I think 10 people want to use the park for any purpose. That would be,
What if it's more than 10 people?
What happens is if 25 people, and they want to
What if
have
they have a moon bounce?
a moon bounce.
Hey, I mean,
Well, doesn't it say 10 or more?
It says 10 or more, but I wanted to know what constitutes a rally. Like if you're are you allowing anybody to have a rally down there?
I mean, the Constitution says we have a right to peaceful assembly,
Okay.
so
That was one of my questions.
whatever the reason people want to assemble is
It's up to them.
up to them. Okay. So, the next thing we reviewed was chapter 119, which is occupancy. And,
That's a good one.
yeah, we really didn't have too many changes to this one, except who could do the inspections. So we felt like the chairman of the License and Inspections Committee was not appropriate for doing inspections. Chairperson of the Safety Committee was not appropriate for doing housing inspections. And the health officer position, we don't have that anymore in Parkside, so we've deleted that. And then the other change is we defined differently what a tenant was. So, I don't have the old definition here, but I have as a new definition, a person possessing or occupying a rental unit with defined terms of residency and payment for habitating. Family members, partners, significant others, friends, and guests as defined by the building owner or leasee are not tenants and they are therefore not subject to rental inspection or occupancy rules as laid in this section. So there were people who were complaining that, and my observation of the old definition was that people who were boyfriend and girlfriend, the girlfriend would own the house and the boyfriend would be living there. The way the old one is defined, the boyfriend could be considered a tenant by the way the rules were defined. So this gives a better definition of who is living with who and ability for the owner of the building or the person leasing the building to define who they are living with. And we change, there's a lot, I'm skipping a lot because there weren't many changes. We changed that the property must comply with the 2018 Property Maintenance Code, which we passed last summer as our current maintenance code. This still had the old BOCA required code in the
Could you generalize that to just specify the most recent?
UCC.
Yeah, so that way we don't have to
Doesn't
go
have to
back
be
and change this
rewritten.
every time something comes up. Mr. Wills, is that allowed?
We can leave that language in there and just say, and/or the more recent revisions, you know.
Okay. And then, once again, it said that violations of housing rules can be committed to the county prison for a period not exceeding 15 days. So again, I don't feel people should go to jail for breaking housing rules. So I'd like that to be, I would suggest that that be deleted. Okay? So Chapter 119 led us to a broader discussion of the fees and inspections and how the borough compensates its inspectors. We took a look at some other municipalities and how they structure fees and compensation. We found that while some Delco municipalities still use a percentage fee structure, many or most neighboring communities have created a fee schedule that can be updated by a simple vote once a year. They list out the services and put a dollar value on the service based on the approximate amount of time it takes to complete the task instead of a percentage of the construction cost, which has no correlation to the amount it takes to perform an inspection. The fees and compensation are also not embedded in ordinances that are hard to change. So, all of our ordinances have the fees in it, and, it's a big production to change the fees and to fix things and to, we have to advertise it if we want to make a change to a fee. So this way, at budget season, when we review the budget, we can also review our inspection fees and our salaries and everything like that as a way to update more on a more regular basis.
It would be my recommendation, if we were to amend our fee schedule, we do so on an annual basis, meaning it would not be effective until January the 1st of 2024, rather than try to implement something in mid-year, midstream. And again, a lot of boroughs implement their fee schedule updated on an annual basis. So if we decide to change the fee schedule, again, it'd be my recommendation, we do so effective January 1st of 2024.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that as a
Now,
timeline.
can we update the fee schedule? Does that have to be by ordinance, or does that be by resolution?
That depends on what the language in the various ordinances say. So there's maybe some that we have to do via ordinance, there may be others we can implement via resolution.
Well, my idea was that we would fix all the ordinances that have a fee associated and change it to say fee as updated on annual basis, or some
Via
legalese.
resolution.
But then they're saying, once we have that, when we do want to update the fees, does it have to be an ordinance or a resolution?
We would change the language in there so that if we want to implement, if we wish to update, we can do so via a resolution. So again,
I would
it's-
actually lean toward ordinance for changing fees, because that way it's
Yeah, but
published.
do you have to, would you then have to post the entire, advertise the whole fee schedule?
No.
No, you
Okay.
do the
No.
header
Again, the
again.
heading can be.
But it would be very
Yeah.
transparent.
Okay, so, and I apologize to the audience, I don't have enough copies to provide everybody, but I'd like to get this up on the website for the course of the conversation.
Before we put this on the website, I think a little bit more discussion. I pointed out a few of the numbers that I think were reversed accidentally. Looking at your first two columns, rather than going point by point, I'd make a recommendation that, looking at that first column to that second column,
So, go ahead, finish what you're saying, and then I'll explain it.
I would go with maybe a flat percentage, just to make it a little bit easier.
The percentage is easier, but it's not as appropriate, because it doesn't take more time to inspect a higher priced job than a lower priced
Well,
job.
no,
I think
so-
what
so-
he's saying
no, no,
is-
no.
Saying,
Hey,
right?
hey, let's give context to everybody in the audience so we know what we're talking about. So, I have a spreadsheet, I have fees, so for example, new construction, in addition, renovation, significant alterations, including 2 inspections. The proposed fee is $500 for 1 to 2 units. If the homeowner is 65 or older, and this is the column that Mr. Sweigart was referring to, is the second column, then that fee would be $450. It would,
Gotcha.
if it's a commercial space, it would be $750. And the current fee is 5%. And then I have a proposed inspector fee of $250 for the residential and a proposed inspector fee of $350 for the commercial. So every price is based on those same 5 headings, and then there's all kinds of different services like plumbing, new water service, repair water service, new sewer lateral, repair sewer lateral, water heater, grease trap. Another one would be mechanical permit, new HVAC system, replace or modify ductwork, any additional inspections. Every service has additional inspections as needed, so that it gives the inspector reason that if there's a problem or a reason they have to come back, that the inspector's going to be compensated for the return trip. Oil tank installation or removal. So it's a long list of fees. We created the list from 2 sources. The first was Kyle Palmer had gone through the borough ordinances and found every place where the ordinance charged money for a service. That was the first list that we used. And then we used other municipalities, their lists of fees, to try to create this list of fees.
So the percentage you were talking about was like a percentage discount
Yes.
instead of having a cetera. Gotcha.
Right, percentage
I understand
discount, like if you set the fee for the residential fee for 1 to 2 units, then the proposed residential fee for homeowners over 65, my suggestion is just make it a
that.
percentage.
10%, because it looks like you have
10%
about
discount
10%.
off of what that first column.
50%,
What?
or 50.
Well, let's get it lower for everybody.
I think I've mentioned it a couple times during the last couple of meetings, is that some municipalities, and I see that your fee schedules are Aston, Radnor, Haverford, all larger communities, and they do permit a 50% reduction on the first permit once a year for seniors.
We can look into that. Scott, you want to look into that?
I've suggested
Okay,
it for several.
I did not see that in any of the fee schedules that I looked at. So I guess I'll look again, I don't know.
Or Ms. Purcival, since, what would you please find on their websites or in their ordinances where they say 50%
I will do
for
that.
senior citizens? Because, if that's what everybody else is doing, it's certainly something we should consider, but, all around, if we can get fees lowered for everybody in Parkside and then provide a 10% discount, that would be an improvement for everybody.
So, and again, the logic of, currently charging a percentage of the job cost, there's no correlation between the cost of the water heater to the amount of time it takes to inspect the water heater. And if you are a homeowner who chooses to buy a more energy efficient water heater or a more expensive water heater, or you're getting ripped off by the contractor, you should not be dinged by the borough for unfair pricing by the contractor. There should be no correlation between the fees that we charge to the cost of the job. It just doesn't have any relationship to what,
The correlation should be the amount of work
the
required
amount of work required, exactly. So
with
that-
the amount of fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in general, without looking at detailed prices and
30
whether.
minutes.
Okay, I'm, all right. So, does anybody have thoughts on the concept of having a fee schedule instead of having a percentage fee?
I have some questions.
Okay,
Number one would be losing revenue as far as administrative fees. We have to pay for the paper permits themselves. We have to pay for the secretary to process this, make calls. So it definitely would be a decrease in that line item that would cost us. Also, I noticed
If
that,
I can answer that one.
okay,
I'm disappointed that the treasurer is not here tonight because I really would value her feedback on the implications towards our municipal budget. So I was hoping to get that feedback through our conversation tonight, and unfortunately, we're not getting that, so I don't know how to
Well-
fix that problem.
I'm not sure, but I think that we'd be losing administrative fees. And as far as an inspector coming out, our inspectors have dealt with the church issue for 3 years and basically are there numerous times a year. They might have a $25 permit for sidewalks in which they're doing 3 inspections to make sure it's correct for the homeowners. So I'm not sure how that was going to be handled. One of the things I noticed here, that there was not a discount per se, it's only a $10 discount for seniors. But you also have, Mr. Powers, I believe, a question on fire marshal investigations, additional fire investigations per hour beyond the 3 hours. Who's being billed, the homeowners or the insurance company?
Yeah, I
Well,
did not
We're not a
understand that.
billing service, so how does the inspector or inspectors get paid if it's just, how do they get paid?
Right, so this was a lack of understanding point here. So other municipalities charge for fire investigations. I did not know how we recover costs for fire investigations when I wrote this, so I put a note in here asking that question. So,
How do we recover fire inspection costs?
I don't think I'm at liberty to talk about that through the ethics.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to discuss my salary or
Well-
position.
I personally, I understand where you're coming from. I reviewed the Aston Radnor, Haverford's, and Brookhaven fee schedules,
right,
and they mimic that. But we're not on the same financial level as they are, or population. I can actually give you the population of 3 of them. And my concern is, again, losing any type of administrative fees and having our inspectors do the same amount of money, or having the inspectors do the same amount of time and effort processing paperwork, state reports, re-inspections, but they are taking a decrease in their pay according to some of these charts.
That would bring us to a similar level with other boroughs.
You cannot compare us to Aston, Radnor.
I'm saying that the
Haverford,
amount of money
Brookhaven.
that the inspectors would be paid is comparable to what inspectors in other localities are paid.
are we still on fire marshal?
Well, we can be.
Okay, so I did not know how the billing for fire marshal works.
And we still don't.
Okay, so, we'll table that price for now.
And I think it's very confusing, but that's only my opinion. And I think you've got some typos in which you charge seniors,
That, I pointed
thank
that
you,
out.
more than you charge anybody else.
Okay, but what about the concept of having a fee schedule as opposed to a percentage structure?
Well,
Anybody have thoughts on that?
I
We're-
like it.
We are landlocked. We have one brand-new property, building coming up on a property on Avon Road. But other than that, we are technically landlocked. So where somebody put a new house, I don't know. So,
That was just the example I used, was new construction.
Yes,
But I tried to think of as many, or use examples of as many types of services, like decks, for example. That seems like something that takes a lot of time and effort. So the fee for decks was higher. If you put a new shed in, or repair a shed or a fence, have a fee for that. Roofing, siding. So I tried to have a fee structure that was consistent with the amount of time in the,
and I will give you an example. Calling permits, as everybody know, I'm trying to pitch in a little bit here without a secretary. You have windows, or number one on the list this time of year. Fence, sheds seem to be a big popular thing. So that the basic homeowner is doing basic repairs. It's not large decks, it's not large construction. We're landlocked. And periodically you get a hot water tank or a furnace. Well, right now, air conditioners. So I think it's very confusing, but I understand your point.
I like the concept of having a fee schedule that can be changed all at once without having to rewrite all the ordinances, so we don't have to get the solicitor to rewrite the ordinances, we don't have to advertise entire ordinances. We can just do the fee schedule. So I like the concept very much.
Thank you.
I think it makes sense personally to reduce the fees as much as possible for our residents because, and especially the incentive should be that they are getting permits and that the permits they're getting are for high quality construction and they shouldn't be penalized just because they are spending more to improve their property versus somebody else who may be doing the same thing for a lesser amount of money.
And there is actually a correlation between compliance and the cost.
Mm-hmm.
The higher the cost, the lower compliance is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you reduce the fees, people comply more.
Right.
Then I think that if we're reducing fees, we need to look at, come budget time, at supplementing the budget with a tax increase to provide us with that administrative fees that we're losing.
I don't think we need, if we're doing one and it's $200, $100 going to the inspector, $100 going to us, I think we're covering our administrative fees.
But
I think
normally
even
a
if it's
permit's
20
$50.
But even if, all right, so it's $50, 25 to the inspector, 25 to us.
Well, I will say that the low-cost $50 inspections have really been eliminated because that's not covering the cost of the inspector to do the inspections. So the smaller the job, unfortunately, the cost per
Percentage.
the percentage of the fee is higher. For if you have, you know, if you have just one door that you're replacing or something like that. So the $50 inspections will go away and will become higher if you have a small job. If you have, but for bigger jobs, the prices will come down.
Percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, but it's still, the official is, the code official is being compensated for their time as opposed to, they make more money on big jobs and make less money on small jobs. Okay. I can see the audience is growing restless, so.
We're all restless. And we're gonna make real quick on this one because we're just starting a discussion on this
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
Yes, so, on the final item on the agenda, so, we have a borough employee running for council again, and I have to say that I really find it to be not appropriate for a council member to also be a borough employee. I think there's too many conflicts of interest. Budget, we define the budget, and you're making choices about salary and compensation during the budget process. And, you know, even tonight we had a discussion about health and fire marshal, and, you know, there's a conflict of interest in what can be talked about and what can't be talked about. We didn't get the answer to the question, and we also we also have a chance for a conflict of interest to be discussed, so, for it to occur. So I really feel like an ordinance that prohibits borough employees from being council members at the same time is something that we should really highly consider.
Well, number one, the state borough code supersedes anything we would do, and that would create a litigation. State Code 1104B authorizes elected borough officials of a borough with a population of less than 3,000 to serve as an employee of that borough.
Okay.
And Mr. Powers could not comment, not because of that, not because of what we were discussing, But there's another issue going on with a state that I believe is the reason why he did not want to comment. And he can correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't need to go into that.
Thank you.
But the point is that we can pass legislation that is more strict than what they say. And what the law says is that boroughs of a certain size, ours, may employ council members, but they're supposed to go through a bidding process for the job. There's all sorts of stipulations. And we are not a remote borough that has no other towns around us that we can find employees from. We are in fact in the middle of Delaware County, one of the most densely populated counties in the country. And we can find people to do positions that aren't on council because we aren't limited to just our town. Now, I have to say, an ordinance that we pass, it would pass, somebody would have to challenge it at that point, correct?
That is correct.
So if nobody challenged it, then we could have the ordinance on the books and then deal with it when somebody challenges it.
And you
But
want to spend
again-
the money for a challenge
but
on an
again-
attorney?
Well, you know what, if they want to challenge it and we've gone through a bidding process, you know, if we were to follow all of the steps that we're supposed to do in order to be ethical, in order to follow the law, then that would be a different story. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the past. The past has been, they get hired, I can give a few examples, without any job search, without any putting out any advertisement so other people can put in for the job just gets given to somebody. And that shouldn't happen because it makes people lose faith in their council because they see that they're using their power to make more money. And
So you're going after specific people who are doing their job, and if they win an election, you're going to try to supersede a state law.
You know, he can challenge it.
So we're going to spend attorney fees to show that that there's already been a challenge in court on this issue, and we're now going to spend attorney fees to again be shown that the state code supersedes ours. There's already been challenges.
It's been challenged where?
Mr. Wells?
Please?
I have not done extensive research on this, other than the opinion that I provided to council approximately a week to 10 days ago, and I think I've underscored my concerns with regard to any potential litigation or legislation concerning that matter.
How long do you suppose, how many hours would you have to put in to try to find other towns in Pennsylvania that have written something saying that council members can't work for the borough and it's been challenged?
We could probably expend an hour or so, and I believe we can find out if there has been previous litigation concerning this issue. Again, I have not gone in that direction yet and will not do so unless specifically authorized by Borough Council.
Well, let's do an hour, hour and a half, whatever you need to figure that out. And
If you could come back and show us where boroughs have put this into place and lost. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Or put it into place and succeeded. I mean,
Well, no, I mean, basically, succeeded is that nobody challenged it or that it wasn't successfully challenged. What I would like to know is if there's precedent of it being successfully challenged.
And we can certainly do that.
Okay, but are we authorizing that? Would you like to make a motion for that?
I make a motion to authorize Mr. Wills to investigate the supersession, what has the authority, state or local or municipal ordinance to, you understand the motion?
I understand the
The
motion.
state supersedes.
Supersede, I couldn't quite.
State supersedes.
Okay.
Sometimes referred to as preemption, where a state preempts and a local municipality can adopt legislation that is contrary to what is already prescribed by state law. It's often referred to as preemption, sometimes supremacy, but I know precisely what the councilman is requesting, and
Mr. Sidlow's made a motion. Can I get a second?
second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we should do a roll call vote. All right? Would you like to call the names?
Sure. Mr. Powers.
Abstain.
Mrs. Purcival.
No.
Mr. Bull.
No.
Mr. Sweigart.
Sweigart.
Yes. This is not to exceed 1 hour?
Hour and a half, we said, right?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Yes.
Just double checking on what we're spending money on.
Mr. Costigan.
Yes.
Mr. Sidlow.
Yes.
President Guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passed.
All right, so we look forward to your report on that next month. Okay. And the licenses inspection report, there were 9 residential building permits and 1 commercial. There were 3 plumbing permits, 1 mechanical, 1 electrical, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Powers, Public Works.
I'd like to discuss, as Doug talked about earlier, the removal of a dead ash tree at the Ford Fitness Trail. Going to work on getting the estimates together to have the tree removed. It is dead. At this time, there's no emergency to have the tree removed. There's 2 other trees next to it. If we have to drag all that equipment up the hill, we might as well remove all the trees.
All right.
So that's that. All the property in the borough has been maintained. As per PennDOT's regulations, the crosswalks in the school zone need to be repainted so they all look the same up there. So there's no confusion where you can cross and not cross. So the paint is ordered, it's on back ordered. But now I got the phone call that it possibly could be here by the end of the week. So we'll paint that as soon as possible to conform with state regulations. Public Works is picking up that part because of this. There's no money for the scope of work to finish the project, so we're picking that up.
So what do you have to do? You have to black the, what section, some that's white and then white other parts? Or?
All the crosswalks have to be painted to match where the kids can cross or anybody can cross. There's 3 of them up there that have to
He's not
match.
talking about blacking it out, just doing the other.
One's been
Oh,
blacked
the other
out
3
already.
sides.
The
Oh, I
one
see.
where you cannot cross has been blacked out.
I see.
Now,
The one
the
closest
other-
to the school used to look like it, but it's faded, so it just has, all 3 of them have to look the same.
Oh, the issue is fading.
Break them
Yes.
up.
All right.
So under health, we do have a roach infestation in Parkside Terrace. I'm working with the landlord, the renter, and code enforcement to get that resolved as soon as possible. We had multiple gas leaks at 2800 Edgemont Avenue. We have now fixed, and myself and Pico has inspected all the gas lines in that unit, and that project is finished. We're receiving multiple calls on fire pits in the borough. There is no open burning in the borough. We do allow the fire pits decorative burning with no trash, no cardboard. It's supposed to be for ambience, for soothing of the minds, but our fires have been out of control lately. They should be in a approved container, and they should have a screen over top of them, so ambers cannot escape. State Wildlife Game Commission on fire pits should be no fire over 6 inches. So that leaves you a very small flame. We have not written any citations, but moving forward, if we need to crack down on it, we will. So just be mindful of your neighbors, the proximity of your houses, and wind speeds, how fire can change very quickly. Accidents happen. That's all I have.
Thank you. Recycling,
Thank you. For totals for April, the trash was 89.43 tons, recycling was 21.71. I'd like to remind everybody with Memorial Day holiday coming up, they don't pick up recycling that week. Normally, Sometimes they've been doing it anyhow. That's all I have.
All right, so no recycling Memorial Day week. Thank you. And communications, Mr. Sweigart.
Our next newsletter, we're looking to come out late July, early August. So we'll be including the 4th of July, the movie night, as well as some other articles. One of the suggestions that the Communications Committee did come up with was to do, there was some request for back to a hard copy of the newsletter. We were thinking of doing a one-page, just front and back, short synopsis of the different articles, leading them back to the online version. Looking at possibly doing maybe about 850 copies was the number that we were originally thinking about doing. Again, making sure we include the calendar events for recreation and any of the other important information for the borough. So I don't think we had this really in the budget for the communications. So if we're trying to cost out what it would be to do that, hand delivered by the Communications Committee, so we're not looking at mailing, just photocopying costs.
Right.
So we'll have an exact figure for the next month.
You probably get printed for like $200.
Maybe less.
I went pretty tight. Color
Yeah.
front and back on some decent card stock.
Yeah.
I went pretty tight.
All right, thank you very
Other than that,
much.
Just general progress.
And now for the engineer's report, we have Mr. Rodo.
Thank you, Madam President. The first two items I have are action items. Flashing beacons have been installed at the intersection of Edgemont and Forest View. I recommend payment number 1 to Armour and Sons in the amount of $28,347.30. 10% retainage was withheld for outstanding punch list items to be completed.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay.
It's a race. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Renault Company has completed the process of removing the crosswalk and associated ADA ramps at the same intersection as part of the PennDOT permit. Recommend payment in the amount of $8,000 for this project, which represents 100% of the contract.
I'll make that motion to pay her now.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Update on West Cole Memorial. Last meeting, a $2,000 reduction in contract price for the borough taking over watering duties at the end of installation was approved. I have the change order here tonight for signatures. And West Cole project contracts have been reviewed by the solicitor, and I brought those contracts as well to be signed tonight.
Okay.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
That was like 1 minute. What can you do? All right, I will point out again, Mr. Solicitor, you had 30 minutes last month.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The May 17, 2023 Solicitor's Report is as follows. Number 1 is the former Parkside Methodist Church at 2801 Edgemont Avenue. Last month, I had received correspondence from a Philadelphia real estate broker on behalf of the property owner regarding zoning, subdivision, and land development issues regarding the adjacent parking lot to the former church property that is approximately 67 feet wide by 144 feet deep. I referred the broker to the various applicable zoning ordinances as well as the Delaware County Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, again, as adopted by Parkside Borough, and which establishes the procedures and standards for all subdivision applications. The owner is at least considering building on that parking lot. I expressed to the real estate broker in no uncertain terms that there are multiple concerns I have on multiple levels concerning those issues, and I can certainly discuss those with council at another matter or at another time, but I suspect there probably won't be any future movement on the parking lot issue. Secondly, concerns the right to know law request. Again, my office continues to work diligently in responding to multiple right to know law requests, including appeals that we currently have before the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records. Again, I'm pleased to advise that the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records has recently sustained the borough's position and response regarding a right to know law request for certain payroll and employment records of a former borough code enforcement officer. Number 3 concerns the class action lawsuit against the Monsanto Company. I'm pleased to advise that the borough recently received a check in the amount of $17,414.03 as a result of a class action lawsuit that was filed against the Monsanto Company. The settlement was based on a class action lawsuit filed by thousands of municipalities across the country, alleging that the company defectively designed PCV containing products that caused environmental harm to municipal stormwater and wastewater systems, including here in Parkside Borough. The check has been deposited in the borough's general fund account, and the proceeds thereof may be utilized at the discretion of Borough Council.
Good.
Fourth, again, the West Cole Memorial Project. My office has reviewed all the proposed contract documents for the construction project at the Memorial Park, and all are in order and now subject to execution by the council president. And with that, Madam President, I can report general progress.
And that was fast. Thank you very much, because we're pushing 2 hours and I was promising shorter. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is call to citizens for non-agenda items. If anyone would like to get up. Let me sign stuff. Give me stuff to sign.
Lisa Cosharel, 252 East Avon Road. I just had I had a question about the, just for Perry, when is the next communications meeting?
Oh, actually, didn't state that. I forgot to check the calendar.
I can check later. I'll find out from somebody else.
Give me 30 seconds.
Somebody's got a calendar.
Yeah, that's what I said. Give me 30
And then I
seconds.
just wanted, while he's looking at that, to Councilman Sidlow and just, well, everybody else, just expressing a concern about the proposed changes to, like, the hours of the woodlot and, or like park, somebody said dawn to dusk. I mean, I know plenty of people who walk their dogs through the trail, like the Ford Fitness Trail, like at night, like after the sun has gone down. So I don't know, would they be breaking the law, or would, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people like to go before bed, especially people who live like right in that area, in the vicinity of it. I live just right up the hill from it on East Avon, and it's right down there. And I mean, I'm not going there like at midnight or for any strange reasons, but I have gone. I don't have a dog, but I've walked like with a friend and stuff at night. So I don't know, that was just something to consider. So that's all I have.
I agree with you. If the park is lit up, people should be able to use it.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, now that I had a chance to check the calendar, next meeting for the Communications Committee will be Tuesday, June 13th at 6:30.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Any minute ago. The flag out front, it's half-mast, it looks really disgraceful. Is there any way you can replace that flag? That's a disgrace to be hanging out like that.
Weren't you guys just talking about that?
Yes.
We discussed that right before the beginning of the meeting.
Well, I'm not in the meeting. so
Well,
I
no,
don't know.
but I'm just saying, it's something that just came up this evening.
I
So-
noticed it when they put it half-mast. You don't see it when it's way up there.
Yes. It's a disgrace.
Yeah.
Now, is that flag displayed properly? Is it lit? I mean, What are the rules
It's
about, like,
supposed to
when
have
it
a light.
rains
It is
and,
supposed to have a light.
what about when it
It's-
rains? Come on, scouts.
There's certainly protocols. It should definitely have a light. We did run up against that in the West Cole. We do our
That's been
level best
fixed.
to maintain
Right.
proper respect for the flag and what it stands for. And there's no badge of honor for us to know that it is in
It's a
a state of
disgrace.
disrepair. We will retire it
Yes.
accordingly. And I certainly would like to see, flag, like, I make no bones about it. They sell them at Home Depot.
How much are we looking at?
They can't be more than
$49.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just bought one last week.
I mean, it's nice.
We don't even need to vote on that, right?
No.
All right.
That's part of the regular.
Make it so.
regular night.
Thank you. Anna, I called Lenai Electric myself to question why our lights have not been being replaced. And then I asked the price of them, and they told me what the price of a bulb could run, anywhere from 500 to 7. But we'd probably be under the ball. But when I asked why they weren't replaced, they said because paperwork was sent and never signed, and that they have had it for over 8 months. Well, whoever, I don't know, I'm sure it was sent here. My concern is, why hasn't it, is it because you're waiting to get Scott's lights approved?
Honestly, if.
No, I'm just asking, seriously.
I'm answering you.
Okay.
Okay. Honestly, because I knew that if we did them all at once in a project like the one that Mr. Sidlow brought to us at the last meeting, that it would be much cheaper than if we did them one at a time as they broke.
Okay.
Also, it was believed to be that all lights would be changed out for 5 years. As long as I've been talking about streetlights, the understanding was that Lenai Electric was changing them. It's only 8 months ago that we actually received a permit for them to be LED. It was the understanding.
There are a few LEDs, I've seen them, they're pretty cool.
That's mine.
But Scott, with your thing, if they find that the wires are bad, that's all would be included in your fee, or is that
That's a
different?
contingency.
Because I asked Lenai
Yeah,
that
they-
question too, that's why I'm asking.
Mr. Mike Fuller, who gave the presentation last month, talked about that. He said that there is a contingency fee built into the price of the, built into the price that they offer, and they're prepared to hold whatever contracted price we agree to is what they will charge and no more, regardless of whether there is unexpected rewiring to be done.
Okay,
Can I interrupt 1 minute?
go ahead.
Daniel, I gave you back a paper from Lenai Electric that was in the mix that the mayor gave me. Can I get that back? Because that showed how many lights were taken care of in the last month, I believe. And I think the mayor wanted to make mention. Thank you, Daniel.
Scott,
Ma'am?
Oh, I didn't.
Apparently, Lenai Electric has been, several of these lights, more than several, have been called in since that was mentioned at the prior council, that these were not done. So, I'm guessing 10 have been called in from March 23rd all the way up, it looks like close to today, within the last 2 months. I would say from the mayor's indication that they have been changed over, now that that was brought to their attention. Thank you. I apologize for interrupting you, Scott.
No.
And Mrs. Dinamico.
When you were talking earlier about the lawyer, I didn't mean Scott. When you used to talk about the solicitor, he'd have to back out for the firehouse. Does that mean a lawyer for the firehouse, or you're going after the firehouse? I didn't understand that. That's why I'm asking.
It's not about going after the firehouse, it's about our relations with the firehouse, that we need a solicitor to represent the borough and to advise the borough on how to manage that
That's
relationship.
what I was hoping you were going to say. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Tim Hall, 91 Park Valley Lane, and also president of the Village of Green Tree Homeowners Association. Once again, thanks for everything you all do. It's quite laudable, and I appreciate it.
You've been president of that association for a long time, Jim. How many years?
You're telling me.
You and I, we go back many years.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It's been over 20 years.
That's right, I figured, yeah.
Yep, and oddly enough, I don't have a lot of contenders that are vying for the
No,
spot.
yeah.
Because I think as soon as they raise their hand, there'll be a disappearance over to the side there, namely me. But no, I actually become a labor of love while I'm there.
You do a great job for Green Tree, yes, you do.
Well, thank you very much. And Green Tree has come to appreciate a lot of the efforts that Parkside Borough does for us too. And I wanted to come here tonight, and for one particular reason, is I wanted to pay thanks and tribute to the Parkside Volunteer Fire Department and all their work, and also to Rob Powers specifically. I've had many dealings with Rob over the years, and then not to mention most recently, and I got to tell you, about a specific one. I got a call roughly around 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, March 25th, and I was home. Thankfully, usually I used to work on Saturdays. I'm not doing that anymore, and found out that there was a fire at Unit 53 and water running, and Rob contacted the management company, contacted me. We worked together, took care of that. I went up to the scene, and I just want to describe what I saw to you. It gave me great comfort to know that we have skilled and dedicated personnel here in Parkside Borough, in something as critical as the fire department. Rob and other members of the fire company were coming out. They had gotten everything under control and really averted a disaster. The quick response time, being on scene. The gentleman was in the house, an elderly gentleman, really nice guy, but his fire alarm worked. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for the fire alarm working. The response time was critical. Otherwise, this would have, it could have been the worst possible outcome, and shudder to think. So I'm really grateful to the expertise and the dedication, to Rob and all the folks on the Parkside Fire Department for everything they do. Volunteer fire department. I used to run fire 30, 40 years ago. And when I see Rob pulling up, I know what it takes when the alarm goes off. You got to make it to the house, or you got your gear in your trunk and you're throwing it on, you're leaving your job or your bed or your cup of coffee or whatever it is, or your other job. And
Your wife.
And your wife, your kids are responding to an emergency. And I'm sure everybody hopes that you come back safely, because you never really know what you're going to get yourself into. So, anyway, Rob, thanks a lot. For
Thank
everything
you.
did. And very briefly, just because I want to keep everybody here, but it's very important. I mean, it wasn't just it contained the fire and averted a catastrophe, a disaster, which it did. Quick response. It was a wonderful response. And then you have the house in the condition it's in. I'm there. I show up. Next thing you know, contractor's showing up. He's boarding up the place for this gentleman. Then next thing you know, the Red Cross is showing up, and they're tending to this elderly gentleman who's 90 years old. And I'm, it's blowing my mind, the coordination, the organization, the time that goes into providing this kind of life-saving service to our residents in Parkside and in our community in the village of Greentree. It just makes me feel much safer to know that you have somebody with Rob's skill set and experience, and knowledge, and dedication. Because let's face it, takes a certain kind of person to stick with, firefighting for all these years. It's definitely have my undying gratitude for everything you do, Rob, and the Parkside Fire Department, and you all as well.
Thank you.
But anyway, Rob, thank you again very much. I really appreciate it. Please pass it along to the fire department. For me, of course, but for everybody at the Village of Greentree, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for your comments, Tim.
Anyone else?
Just as a general rule, the volunteer fire service is our unsung hero throughout this county. Again, other than the city of Chester and Upper Darby Township, every municipality here in Delaware County is serviced by the volunteer fire service. If we didn't have those dedicated men and women, like I said, we couldn't raise our taxes high enough or fast enough without the volunteer fire service. And that's a general rule throughout the county.
And truer words never spoken, and they're putting their life on the line every time they go out. And that was just the first call. Within a period of a week or two, another one exposed an issue that could have turned into a problem. Once again, I mean, and we take this to heart. We take this information that we get from these responses, and we take it and we relay helpful, thoughtful information to our residents, so we can provide a safer community and rate from experienced people who can give us the best information. So, thanks again.
Thank you. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Mike Sweeney. I just wanted to know if it's public knowledge, like what kind of vandalism was going on in the park.
They tore the signs on the house.
There were 23 signs that were, there were 23 tree signs that were put in the park. Before we finished the project that day, one was already bent over completely. That was bent back. When they were checked on this past weekend, 2 of them have been dug out of the ground. I mean, they were buried 18 inches with a ground anchor, so the 2 signs that they wanted them bad because they had to work to get those out.
Did they say cuss words?
No,
No, I mean the signs, right? They want the signs so
Yeah.
bad. Did they have curse words on them or
They
something?
needed the QR codes. They were
Ridiculous.
Well, I have video cameras pulling towards the park.
the 2 signs that were taken were at the very far back edge of the park.
I just want to offer it up.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can do to help catch people doing bad things back there, I'll offer it up. And kind of going along with that, with the ordinance changes with the times back there, what's to be done about that if somebody is back there actually causing harassment, causing vandalism, stuff like that? I mean,
Call our officer.
I had, but nothing got done. Video evidence. And even Rob, I came to you guys before with this. And then Rob's the only one to step up and said, you shouldn't be back there, it's trespassing in them hours, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Shine flashlights on houses.
Jeez.
Nothing got done. Nothing gets done. I'm invisible. Like, there's a complaint out there for something that's not right, and it just gets brushed under the rug. So, I mean, when you do these ordinances, does anybody want to enforce them? Right. Another thing, there are representatives that are coming here. Is that going to be posted on the website?
Yes.
The dates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was their purpose?
Right, Theo? What?
What was their purpose?
They are our state representatives. They're coming here, I believe I believe to let people know about some services that are available. You know,
They're providing regular constituent services that they would provide out of offices, but they're trying to be.
like have little satellite offices,
Satellite
you know,
hours.
like spend a couple hours here so the Parkside residents can come in and talk to them if they'd like. You know, like Tom Killian has his office over by the eye doctor's office.
Yeah, it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not state rep.
Yeah, I know. But I still see his name there.
It's Kane now.
Yeah, but I still see his
But it's not him,
name.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, so this would be like you know, like a once a month for a couple hours, this would be an office of the Carol Kasim, the representative, with her staff here to help anybody.
If you have any statewide issues, maybe you have a driver's license issue or something like that, going through the state rep or state senate's office is your best bet. Trying to deal directly with Harrisburg can sometimes be very, very frustrating. So like I said, if you have a statewide issue, always go through the local state rep's office, the state senator's office. They will be an advocate for you. But if you try to do it on your own, contacting Harrisburg, again, it can be quite frustrating.
Well, how about like issues like zoning, like I know it's at the state level, there's
I'm not sure what all they're gonna be covering, but they did send a letter where they talked about various things, so I'll make sure that that's up on the website as well.
Okay, for instance, like, we had, we're gonna redo our steps, so in the process, we put a deck on the front of our house. We were told we could only go out so many feet. And then, Joe Ferguson comes out and says, good thing you didn't go any further, or we made you take it down. My neighbor puts one up, it's out further than mine. So I'm like, well, why couldn't I connect? Because I would like to have an extra couple feet.
Sure.
So the contractor built it to what Joe said, and then called to say, you know, why is this one coming out further? You told us we could. And now all of a sudden we got 4 extra feet we could have had. And I would have preferred to know that before it's actually built. Like,
Because we
I don't
paid for
want.
a permit, right?
Huh?
We paid for a permit, right?
Yes,
We were given the wrong information, right? And he don't remember a thing, does
yes,
he?
yes. And it's not the first instance we had with Joe and my unfortunate neighbor situation. And you guys know some of the things too with the fence and all that stuff, crazy thing. But you know, it's just like, why are we hearing one thing and then being told another thing? And it's just, is it who you are or who you know?
Or they come with it?
Let's talk about this again, all right? You and I, let's talk about this and see what we can figure out.
Is this something like the state people can help with?
Maybe.
Because there's fishy things going on.
All right, we'll talk.
Okay,
You know how to reach me.
thank you.
All right, anyone else? And we can move on. All right. Should have been under new business. Is there any old business? The other thing's going under new business.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the solicitor, a couple months ago, we had discussed reducing the salary of the elected officials to 0. We weren't sure if that would be under a resolution or an ordinance.
That would need to be under an ordinance. And again, Mike, I think we're going to run into the same issue, preemption.
Okay.
Again, I can refer you to the statewide ordinance that sets and regulates the salary for a borough council person, again, depending on the
Size.
population, right, of the municipality.
I believe it's written that there is a maximum number, but I don't believe there is a minimum number. I believe it says that borough officials are allowed to be paid up to a certain amount, but I don't think there's a bottom.
Let me take a look at that, Michael. And again, that may be a legitimate inquiry. Again, may run into the same issue, but let's take a look at the language of the statutory provision that's in there and see if we can, quote, amend that or tweak that. Again, depending on the statutory language, but we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you're okay for me taking a look at that as well?
Yeah, I
then,
guess
for
we
you,
need a
Mike?
motion for
Well,
How long is it gonna take you?
No, it shouldn't take too long. So,
We'll include that in the hour.
Yeah, right. We'll take a look at, I'll have an opinion on both of those issues prior to the next meeting again, so.
Okay.
All right, so under new business, if there's nothing else, we have a motion to appoint the new solicitor for any dealings that we have with the firehouse. As Mr. Wills said, that would be called a conflict counsel. We already discussed it. I would like to make the motion to appoint the solicitor to serve in that capacity. We all met with Mr. Schley. I believe that he would be an acceptable option. He seems to have good experience. Are there any, do I have a second?
Oops.
Second.
I have a question. Why are we not asking other solicitors or other attorneys versus Mr. Schley, who is a Democrat out of Philadelphia?
Well, I actually called a bunch of solicitors and,
Could you tell me who?
who's the guy in media that I called?
Bob something.
Bob Kane, Bob?
Bob
Scott.
Bob Scott, yes, I called Bob Scott. Bob Scott actually recommended Michael Schley. There were a few others that I called, I can't tell you their names, I could look it up. But this isn't a huge decision, this is one aspect that we'll need a solicitor for, that Mr. Wills agreed that is necessary.
Yeah, it is not uncommon where municipalities may appoint what we call a conflicts counsel, that if the regular solicitor may have a conflict with a particular issue, that another solicitor would deal with specifically that issue. So that is not uncommon, the motion that's being made by the council president.
My concern is to have somebody local versus somebody out of Philadelphia.
He works in Philadelphia, he actually doesn't live in Philadelphia.
He lives in Lansdowne, if I'm correct.
Lansdowne, that's right. We wouldn't need him here every day, so I don't think that would be a big concern. So I have a second. Are there any other questions?
I mean, my only question is, we have had special counsel when litigation has arisen. Is there pending litigation that is
No.
that we're trying to get ahead of, because we've never done anything like this before?
No, but we have asked them to get an audit. We've been having some negotiations. I would like to have a solicitor who I can ask questions and know that they are giving me the answer that's best for Parkside. I'm not saying that Mr. Wills wouldn't, but again, as he has admitted, he has a long-standing relationship with that fire company.
Follow-up question, what is the retainer to have this attorney available for your questions? How much per hour?
He has given us his hourly rate. I will find out from him if there is a retainer. If there is a retainer, I'll undo everything. But
Generally with conflicts counsel, there would not be any retainer fee paid up front. Again, it would simply be on an as-needed basis, on a per hourly basis. So I don't think.
and his hourly rates were comparable to his, and he also has a clerk who will work for $100 an hour, so.
But we don't know how much the attorney is charging per hour?
No, we do. He told us his rates.
It's approximately 185.
So we're going to go not to exceed $185 an hour?
An hour.
We don't
He
have
did say
any
that,
pending
he says he
litigation.
charges more if he's in court, so that will have to be dealt with when that arises. If that were to arise, I don't expect it to.
I hope not.
No.
Do we
Much
anticipate
rather.
pending litigation with our own fire department?
I would hope
You
not.
know, I can share with you some emails to show you my concerns, but in the meantime, are there any other questions? All right, everybody understands the motion. Let's do a roll call on this one.
Mr. Powers,
Abstain.
Mrs. Purcival,
No.
Mr. Bull,
No.
Mr., forgive me, how do you pronounce it?
Sweigart.
Sweigart. Mr. Sweigart?
I'm thinking.
I'm sorry?
I'm
You're still thinking?
still thinking a little bit here. Yes.
The gas.
Mr. Costigan,
Yes.
Mr. Sidlow,
Yes.
that's 4 yes.
No, it isn't. Ask me.
Oh, sorry, Mr. President. Sorry, President Guy.
Yes. Motion is passed. Are there any other? I'll take a motion for dismissal.
So moved.
We're out of here.